Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko, happy to be with you with the guys, Tariq, Spence.
I don't know where I'm at right now. I don't know if I'm really happy.
Studio work. Game 6. You've been doing this for a number of years now.
Or if I'm really nervous, getting ready to watch Game 7.
I want to talk about that. And you're decked out. I love it.
You got all mad at me because I wore a Reggie Miller jersey last week, so I'll bring you back with Rochester's hometown.
No. Go back to the Indiana Pacers.
No, John Wallace. No, this is what you wanted. This is what you wanted. You yelled at me. Now you get this. Now you get this.
John Wallace, best we ever produced?
Well, as of now, we do have, 4 or 5 guys currently playing in the league, and could be more on the way.
First round draft pick. That was impressive. Look, I want to get the analogy out of the way early because I don't want to miss the opportunity to say it.
Yes.
The Knicks-Pacers game, where the Pacers go from one game winning by 30 and then losing by 30, doesn't happen very often. But it's like, where's the consistency in sports? For instance, my analogy is like when we come in here to do this show, it says, I know I'm going to get a certain level of expertise from you guys, and it's consistent. Every week I get it. It's not like, you don't come in with the jersey on backwards and having been up all night, trash, at least to my knowledge.
The first one, absolutely not. The jersey will be on forward.
But it's like, man, it would be like that. It's like, in day-to-day basis, I wouldn't know what I'm getting out of either one of you guys based on the way that series has been played.
Well, look at it this way. I'll take it from the Knicks standpoint, and then I'll go to the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, which has taken a drastic turn as we speak of right now. We're not sure how that series is going to pan out. The Knicks and the Pacers have played some of the closest ref-moved games there is, and then led to 2 blowouts back-to-back before we get to Game 6 and Game 7, which Game 6 has already been played. I know that. But Game 7, we're not quite sure about that, depending on what happens in Game 6. That being said, look at the Timberwolves, first 2 games in. They're totally destroying an NBA championship team, and then they go to another gear. So it's so bizarre. This is unpredictable. I think we thought teams were going to just coast through, and we were going to have sweeps. And now we have Game 6s and possibly Game 7s.
It's very simple. What you're watching with the Knicks,
of course it is,
the Pacers, and the Minnesota Timberwolves are all the same thing. They are talented teams that don't know how to win in the playoffs, right? Because it's what you're speaking to the swings in performances and scores, right? You have nights where Indiana, when it's on, it is on. They are unbelievably talented. When the Knicks are healthy, boom, and they can make everything pop.
What gets me is because I'm not the athlete. I don't get the collective mindset that these teams can't roll out a consistent effort.
Well, but it's not, is it a consistent effort, or is it a consistent effort collectively through everybody? Because those guys, I don't think they're not going out and trying as hard as they can. I think there are nights where things are just off, where you look at a team like the Nuggets, and yes, they lose those first 2 games of the series against Minnesota, but they know what they're doing, and they know that they can close their eyes and know where their teammates are going to be. You know what effort you have to get to at what round to get to what you need, because that's the other part of this, right? You don't want to blow everything you've got in rounds that aren't going to get you a championship, right? We've seen that happen with the Buffalo Bills. The Chiefs seem to have a switch. If we're going to use an NFL analogy, when we need it, we turn it on. I think that's what you're seeing with those 3 teams in the NBA right now.
And what about Boston? I mean, isn't that their whole MO, that they sort of coast through the regular season and then they get to the playoffs and then they take on a team, beat them by 30, and then that team comes back and beats them the next game in Game 2 with Cleveland. It's bizarre in the sense that you would think that if a team gets blown out, they shouldn't be in this series at all. But yet the next night the adjustments come out. Guy is not at 100%. Guy is out for whatever reason, and then next thing you know, the series is even.
So we've touched on the real good basketball series. What about your guy to go to for the hockey?
Yeah.
What should we be watching at this point?
I'm really enjoying what's going on with the Rangers. The Rangers had an opportunity last weekend to end the thing. We don't know what's going on right now. As we tape this, it looks like there's going to be another game, but yeah, you're witnessing the same thing, right? It's a Rangers team that is the most talented, arguably, that's having a hard time closing out a series because they don't have the experience. I'm really excited to see what finishes up with this Boston-Florida series as we're watching this go down. I want to see Boston lose. I hate Boston, but, right? Sabres South in Florida with Sam Reinhart, Brandon Montour, Kyle Okposo, and Evan Rodriguez, 4 former Sabres playing there. I think the Stanley Cup champion is coming out of the East. But of the 4 teams that are left, it could be any of the 4, if I'm being completely sincere with you.
This is the Rochester Press Box. We're talking Buffalo Bills next. Just passing through. Life lessons from notable Rochesterians. People you may think you know. Don Elhart, Maggie Brooks, John Dady, and Stacy Pension. J. Mack and Soccer Sam. Fred Costello, and Jake Zembeck. Along with 21 more. How they all got from there to here. It's a new book by Bill Pucko, available for $12 postpaid only from rocksportsnow.com. Try it, and thank you. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box, talking Buffalo Bills. Pat, the thing that caught my eye more than anything, I think, was the hiring of the referee to put on an advisory role, and then backing it up with the statistics that said that the Bills are the worst challenge team in the NFL by a long way.
Okay, so here's the thing. Sean McDermott had been the worst challenge coach in NFL history. That was until last season, when a coach in his division took that spot over. Do you know who it is?
Bill Belichick?
Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel has only won 3 challenges in 2 years.
I like him.
Oh yeah, he's a guru. Now look. One of the biggest faults for McDermott in game, he's a terrible challenge person, right? Challenge coach. So I like the idea of thinking outside the box. The issue with this for me is, you guys know, you'll watch these ESPN, Fox, CBS presentations, and they'll bring in the Dean Blandinos or whoever it is, and they'll go, what do you think? And this former referee, will give you a detailed description of why what he's seeing is going to get overturned, and then they'll go to the referee, and they're wrong half the time too. Statistically, NFL coaches, the majority of them are just below 50%. So I don't know if bringing in the referee, granted, anything over 30%, which McDermott is at, is better than what we got here.
I like philosophically that they're willing to admit we have an issue here that we're trying to fix.
But see, this is why I think this is the biggest acquisition this organization has made during this offseason, because not only do you realize that you're not very good at this, I would beg to ask, do other NFL teams do this?
So from what we understand, there was one more. The Raiders did this a couple of years ago with Gruden, but you bring up a great point. The fact that they realize this is a weakness. One of McDermott's biggest knocks off the field is he's kind of a control freak. There was a story by writer Tyler Dunn last season, right before the Bills went on their winning streak, that there were a bunch of people that didn't like the way he operated the team. My question here with this hiring, is this McDermott saying, I need help and I want help in the booth? Or is this someone from above McDermott saying, we're putting this on you? Because if it's the second one, I don't know how effective this is.
Now, does that put more pressure on McDermott to win more this year than he did last year or previous years?
I mean, if I'm as a guy who loves to skirt responsibility, if it stops working, like if I'm not winning the same amount of challenge, I just point to that, but he told me to do it.
Having a coordinator is going to help.
I mean, listen, this is a lot of pressure for this upcoming season, which makes the offseason acquisitions really important. And do you have your new number one now?
Wait a minute. Here's what I can't get, right? Because
here we go.
No. Some weeks, this team is far less talented. We're pie in the sky. So that would mean there's less pressure, right? And now all of a sudden this week, there's a ton of pressure. If you don't do it, there's pressure. Is there more pressure or less pressure? Because I can't figure out week to week with you guys.
I say every week it's more pressure. So I've never said it's
so then how is there less talent if there's more pressure?
You're not talking Valdez-Scantling. It's the number one.
Listen, this is a big wide receiver for them, and you need wide receiver help, because you told me the last couple of weeks you don't have a number one, and is he your number one?
If he's available in May, he better not be.
He's not a number one. But look, he is another kind of guy. Look, again, Josh Allen hasn't had that deep threat wide receiver. That's what he's known for. He's not going to be a volume guy, but if you use him the right way, he can be an impact guy. Not a number one impact guy, but an impact guy.
On a team that's won a couple of Super Bowls, which you'd love to have in that locker room.
Maybe. I mean, he won a couple of Super Bowls, but
maybe
he had 300 yards catching and 1 touchdown in the regular season last year. I mean,
Yeah. Strength in numbers, maybe?
Sure.
What's the one thing, if one of these guys, Claypool or him or Scantling, pops, you look great.
If the NFL allows you to carry 11 receivers, I think the Bills are going to be totally fine.
Most dangerous word, if. That's a really, really scary word to put into something.
Well, and they get to sort this out in training camp, and that's what the preseason games are going to be for. They're going to, actually, for the Bills, are going to mean something, I think, this year.
Now, that means more Josh Allen actually playing in the preseason, and nobody wants to see that. Come on.
Trubisky.
And everything was all good, I guess.
Well, the Rochester Press Box, like it or not, is next. Here's the Press Box Trivia Question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road.
Thank you, American architect Frank Lloyd Wright, and this amazing getaway to Great Cliff. Hello again, Mike O'Brien, your getaway guy. I'll take you on the tour. Just look for the getaway guy right now on Facebook.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Our Like It or Not segment is brought to you by Ralph Honda, where Honda is done right. Online or in their showroom, build your new Honda, get financing and a quote on your trade. For your next Honda, visit Ralph Honda. Like it or not, Jared Goff gets a huge deal from the Lions.
Here's what I'm amazed by. Now, the deal looks huge. When it comes to guaranteed money, it's not as big as it looks, but he deserved it. He earned it. I'm really happy for him. If you would have told me 4 years ago that Jared Goff was going to be the more successful quarterback between him and Carson Wentz when he was coming back from his knee injury, I would have told you were insane. And then when you look at the guy's resume, like all of a sudden, he's appeared in a Super Bowl. He's made 2 playoff runs with a playoff run with the Detroit Lions, where they're a game away from a championship, right? I mean, like,
and favored again this year.
Yes, now here's the thing. We've seen this play out in Detroit before. I am worried that the expectations are going to cause everything to crash back down to earth. But
like Buffalo.
They're my favorite bet this year.
Okay, now
here we go.
Here comes the mush. Now we're done. Now it's over. Look, it was a great story. It was a great story until you said the Lions were one of your favorites, and now it's over.
We want Campbell to work, though. That's one thing. There's Dan Campbell. We want him to work. We want Detroit. They're just like most teams that have never won a Super Bowl. One of the teams everybody's rooting for.
You know, it's part of that story. So Goff winds up, again, you play with these numbers, but it's the second highest quarterback paid in the league right now. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen is 10th.
Yeah, bargain of the century, man. Yeah, I mean, look, the good news there is they're gonna rework his deal to raise what his AAV is going to be, and that's going to lower in a couple of years what he's being paid, because he's due like $60-something million. But
look at all the quarterbacks ahead of him. Burrow's ahead of him. You've got Dak Prescott ahead of him. And most of those guys haven't performed either.
Mark my words, in 3 years, Josh Allen will be the highest paid and maybe player, definitely quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like it or not, Caitlin Clark's debut.
All right, 20 points. All right, listen, when a team drafts number 1 in any draft, they're not that good. So to have Caitlin Clark come in and think that she was going to score 40 points and then if we were going to win all these games, yes, they're going to win games. Yes, they're going to look a little bit better. But you know what? She has done so much for outside of just the WNBA in and of itself. I think Caitlin Clark's career and her ability to shoot the basketball will last a very long time. I'm not sure when the bubble will burst or if it will burst, but I tell you what, 20 points in your first game out with professionals, women who have been playing for years, is pretty impressive.
20 and 10. 10 turnovers, but 20 and 10 that she had in her opening debut.
At the same time, I worry a little bit about her first frame, and you know, professional women athletes they're vulnerable to the knee injuries, especially, but the idea that this league wants her to succeed, but at the same time, you have to try to defend her. It's like it's a push and pull about what's good for the league and what's good for us.
It is very interesting watching how other players are reacting, right? Because I get it. I get the envy and the jealousy of like, hey, man, we've been here for however many years doing this thing, and all of a sudden she's come in and hasn't played a game, and she's been... But at the same time, I mean, there's...
You can see some of these women who just want to clobber her.
But a rising tide floats all ships, right?
I think they want the credit. I think the fact of it is that they've been asking about this for years, and the fact that they don't have these chartered flights, they don't get this, they don't get that, they don't get the luxury that the NBA guys get. But now that she comes in the league, it happened. Well, it happened. It's here now. Whether it's to her benefit or not, maybe people who, they said Aja Wilson's getting a signature deal from Nike. Maybe that doesn't happen if Caitlin Clark doesn't get her signature. I mean, I get it. People are upset about how they're getting it and that she's getting the credit for it, but you didn't have it before and now you have it now.
It's such a hard thing to sell, and the NBA doesn't have to worry about it because, like, if you crack down on like LeBron James, people still interested. If Caitlin Clark fails as a professional because she's surrounded by all these great players, this is all going to be for nothing.
The one thing I find weird about this is that you're starting the season, the WNBA season, in the most important part of the NBA season. Like, you're going to lose legitimate basketball fans, right? Like, what is going on? I don't get the idea behind that. And I mean, heck, if you were going to change anything this year because of Caitlin Clark, do that. Wait until June and then start the WNBA season then.
Although there is a line for people wanting to see Caitlin Clark, so that you could possibly go, if your team is out of the playoffs for whatever reason, you can possibly go take your daughter or your son or your kids or your family to go see someone play in a game that maybe they wouldn't have gone in before.
Like it or not, brought to you by Ralph Honda. Unfinished Business is next.
It's your job as a parent to take it upon yourself to make sure your kid knows how to properly watch sports. I'm done being old guy.
And get off his lawn.
Thank you.
And what do you do with WAR? WAR is like the stat now in baseball, and you can't figure it out. You don't have the... No.
It's bad. I'm going to say it's bad. I'm on record.
See? But, you know, we wouldn't even know how to figure that out. So it's not like home runs, hits, and RBI anymore. It's like these statistics that you can't produce yourself. I don't know. That bugs me too.
The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. Come home to McArdle's.
Came now to Eichel. He floated one.
Unfinished Business is brought to you by Greg the Roofer. Better roof, better price. Better call Greg today. Save time and money on your roof and siding. Call us today for a free estimate. Special financing's available. Visit us online at gregtheroofer.com.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Our Unfinished Business is brought to you by Greg the Roofer. Thank you. Start us, Pat.
It's important to remember where we come from. And I'm not talking about family or culture. I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills. Because you're right to criticize Sean McDermott for only winning 30% of his challenges. Statistically now the second worst challenge coach in the history of the NFL. But let's remember where we were before. The coach before Sean McDermott, Rex Ryan, was known for doing some pretty wacky things. Hiring his brother. There were a bunch of off. Remember the bicycle built for two that we watched him driving around in training camp? Do you know who his review coach was? Rex Ryan? I'm not making this up. It's been confirmed by several different NFL sources. He used the team chaplain, the man of God, the priest, whatever you want to call him, as his review coach in the NFL season. He had him upstairs, either looking at reviews or talking to God to get an opinion about what was and not a reviewable play. And if you don't believe me, you can Google the story and see all the information on it yourself. It's amazing that Sean McDermott is taking this help. And you can criticize him if you want to, that he thinks he needs this help from someone outside the franchise. But let's thank God, both literally and figuratively, that the man of God is no longer responsible for deciding if something is or isn't a catch.
I know NFL teams hate these international games because it's a possibility of losing a home game or promoting your sport overseas. And I know one complaint that is probably going to be coming extremely soon from the New York Jets quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, is the fact you got to play these games in London and what that all means and the sarcasm that will come from all of that, or playing in Brazil or playing in Germany. Listen, this is a sport that we know full well will eventually end up somewhere in another country. Probably London, probably the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm just saying. It's a possibility that there will be an NFL team in the next 10 years or so that will be over there. So just understand that this is part of the process of settling the NFL. And for Rodgers, who will probably be on some stream or broadcast somewhere down the line from some network that'll think that he'll bring numbers and people will watch the NFL, this is a chance to promote yourself and do the same thing, which you love to do anyway. So it doesn't even matter. Just go play the games. Don't complain about it, and see where the NFL is in 10 years in a brand new country. The NFL wants to expand, wants to go to 18 games, wants to expand even more than that. Let them do it. I know there'll be grumblings. I know there'll be home teams that will be upset about their team not playing at home and playing in another country. Just enjoy it like I will as a Giants fan. Wake up early in the morning, go to the gym, go get some bagels after that, and then sit there and watch your team play in Germany.
You don't have to wait till the end of the football season to find out how the Buffalo Bills fared. The sports books can tell you now. They'll win 10 or 11 games just like last year, and like last year, it'll be enough, barely, to win the AFC East. Welcome to the future. The gambling houses annually project a team's future win total. You bet the over-under. This year, like last, the Bills' number is 10.5. That despite a pretty rough offseason that saw massive salary cap cuts and the trading of wide receiver Stephon Diggs. So it isn't too surprising that more money is being wagered on Buffalo to come in that under on that 10.5. And that's bad news. This is optimistic season for football fans. Fully 24 of the 32 NFL teams are being bet to beat their projected number. The Bills are one of only 8 that aren't. 3 teams top the field at 11.5. The Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Niners. Buffalo is in a group of 5, a game behind. The two most intriguing teams are the Steelers and the Chargers. Pittsburgh won 10 games last year before adding quarterbacks Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Their overall number is 7.5. The over is being bet heavily. LA, meanwhile, was 5-12 last year. But off the hiring of head coach Jim Harbaugh, the over-under is 8.5. And the money is still coming in on the over. Now, a lot can happen between now and next January, but this means something. Last year, 7 of the top 8 in the future market made the playoffs. Buffalo is in that group again. That's our Unfinished Business, brought to you by Greg the Roofer, and that is our program. You know, it's like the microcosm. We watch these NBA series especially, and every one of them looks intriguing, but in the end we're going to wind up with Denver and Boston, and we're going to be like, hey, I told you so.
Well, then one of the NFL playoff teams is not going to be in the playoffs this year.
Houston.
Oh, the Texans.
How many times do I have to say mark the tape and I'm going to play it back for you guys to rub it
Could
in
be
your
the
face?
Cowboys.
I will say Cleveland. I don't know. I don't believe too much.
Oh, that's a good call, too. That's a good one, too. Both of them. Write them down both.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box. About big picture versus in picture?
Nope, before we went back in. That's fun.